Let's get ready to mortgage. He is the prince of programs, guru of guidelines, master of matrices. He puts the fun in funding. Please welcome Mark, Mr. Mortgage, I tell.
All right. You heard the man. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are tuned in to the Mr. Mortgage Show, and we are very, very happy that you're with us. We've got an amazing show lined up for you this week. A ton of news in the real estate and mortgage interest rate space this week. Lots of stuff to discuss. But friends, you're in the right place if you want the data, the information, the tips, the tricks, the strategies, programs, guidelines, the things that we see working in the market every day. If you want the data that you need to make better real estate and mortgage decisions for you and your family, well, you're in the right place. We do this each week right here, same time, same station, and we are very excited to be with you. I am joined, as always, by my lovely producer, Jennifer, and she will get your questions on the air. Call or text the Anytime Hotline, 855-462-7292. That's the Anytime Hotline, 855-462-7292. Hey, Jen, happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, everyone.
Happy Thursday indeed. We're super excited to be with you. But guys, we start each show off by just kind of dissecting where we are in the world of real estate and mortgage and interest rates, right? That's a huge topic of conversation lately. A lot of people are curious to see if these most recent interest rate hikes are going to kill the housing market. And we've got the data. We have been digging deep on all of the data for you. So call or text your questions to 855-462-7292, and Jen will get them on the air. One more time for the people in the back, 855-462-7292. And if you're just shy and you don't want to call, you can email your questions by visiting the website, which is mr.mortgage, never a .com, just mr.mortgage. And in the upper right-hand corner of the page is a contact us box. If you type your question there, Jen will see it pop up on our end, and she'll read your question on the air. But guys, as I mentioned, a week full of headlines, news, interest rate hikes, all kinds of housing-related information this week. So I find it super interesting. As always, I share with you. Sometimes it frustrates me, and other times it makes me laugh how the news, and this isn't a political statement. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, but the news is all about, headline, attention-grabbing, clickbait. Oftentimes, I can't even digest the fact that the headline itself is so disconnected from the data. But I found it interesting. So everybody, unless you're living under a rock, you know that the Federal Reserve, Chairman Jerome Powell raised interest rates a 3/4 of a point hike yesterday, right? So everybody knows that. He's been pretty consistent with the 3/4 of a point hikes of late, and it was no surprise, right? But I jumped on to CNN right as it was happening, and the headline said that the Fed approves historic supersized rate hike. And I get it, right? It's a big rate hike, but it's not historic. He did the same thing at the last meeting, exactly 3/4 of a point. So I don't know what the intent of that headline was other than to scare the hell out of people, but it just makes me shake my head. There's enough fear in rising interest rates anyway that you don't have to turn the headline into a bunch of fear mongering with, Fed approves historic supersized rate hike. Well, was last month's supersized or historic? And we've seen this behavior from the Federal Reserve to quell inflation in the past, right? So I think the bigger headline is, why did it get out of control as quickly as it did without reaction? And, now what appears to be overreaction is required to slow this economy down. I mean, we had another low unemployment number. We had another, I think it was 255,000 job openings. There are a lot of data points that are signaling that we're going to see more rate hikes in the future. But the good news with the real estate market is that housing traditionally performs very well in a recession. And whether you believe we're in a recession now or not, almost all economists are projecting that we're going to be in the middle of a recession sometime next year. So housing is a good bet in a recessionary market, but also it's probably one of the safest hedges against inflation, because if you're renting, you know how your rent has increased over the last couple of years, and it's likely to continue. If you have a fixed rate mortgage and you've purchased a property, you've pretty much locked your payment in. So as a hedge against inflation, housing is historically a very safe place, as well as precious metals. But you can't live in a bar of gold bullion unless it's a really, really big bar. But my point is that housing, not only is it a necessity, it's probably one of the few things, now that I think about it, that is a necessity, but also a proven investment strategy. And I was talking with a group of financial planners a while back, and I went out on a limb and said, I imagine the majority of the money that you manage was derived from equity accumulation over time. And I was wrong. You know, the woman who was the head of the group, brilliant mind in finance, she shared with me that it was just under 30% of the money that she was managing for her average client came from equity accumulation. The majority of it was from smart investments. And that probably speaks to, you know, what a good financial planner she is. But my point in that was, she did share that her uncle, and I believe it was her father, if I remember the story correctly, brought her in to the business. And one of the two of them told her, the very first thing you need to invest in is a car, and then buy a home or an apartment. She's in the city, so they buy their apartments. We call them condos down here, because you can live in your car until you can afford to live in your apartment, but you can't live in your portfolio. So I found that kind of, a very blunt instrument drive the point home that, real estate is necessary. You need a place to go home unless you're living in your mom's basement. And it historically grows in value over time. So it's a necessity that also turns into an investment. And it's one of the few things that I can think of along those lines that provides more than one, tangible benefit of ownership, appreciation, tax write-offs, as well as providing the necessary shelter for you and your family. And then lastly, one of my very favorite things about real estate as far as wealth accumulation in the form of equity is the leverage, right? So let's just play this out for a minute. You're going to buy a $500,000 house, and let's say you put 10% down. So you put $50,000 down on a $500,000 asset. So you leveraged the other 90%. But the entire $500,000 is appreciating. So you put $50,000 into this deal to obtain a $500,000 asset appreciation. So if it goes up 10%, that's $50,000. It's not 10% of your down payment. So it's a tremendous opportunity to leverage as an investment. And then lastly, if you're buying investment property, I don't know how many times that you have the opportunity to invest in an asset with borrowed funds, again, leverage, right? But then you have the opportunity to allow someone else to pay for it for you in the form of a tenant. So guys, I'm a big believer in real estate. I'm going to share with you a conversation that I had. I'm in a mastermind group with a bunch of private money managers, mortgage professionals, investment bankers. I don't know how I got let into the group because I'm probably the least tenured. Actually, that's not true. I've been doing this since the 90s, but these are high-level guys that I'm speaking with. And I had an interesting debate where we saw opposite ends of an argument around the pending, in his eyes, housing crash that I don't think is going to come anytime soon. But guys, we're going to talk about all that on this week's show. We've got a great show lined up for you. Jen is back there already taking some of your questions. I see her bouncing around back there. So sit tight. We are going to have an amazing week with you. But you hear the music. You know what that is. That's my cue. We'll be back in 2. Sit tight for 2 minutes. On the other side of this break, we'll be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
We started our loan with a different company. They said we were approved, but at the last minute they told us there was a problem. I still don't know what went wrong, but thankfully our real estate agent told us about Mark. I was pretty stressed, but it's the perfect house, so we gave Mark a shot. He got it done. I'm not sure what was different, but I don't really care. We even got a better interest rate and with less money out of pocket than the first guy quoted us. It was a great surprise. Yes, I'm happy to recommend Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team.
It's that time of year again. Time for the Red Devil Cycles Toy Run. Join us Sunday, November 20th. The ride starts at Pineapple Park in Jensen and rolls out to Timer Powers Park, Indiantown. It's going to be an awesome ride, a great day, full of food, fun, music, raffles, giveaway, and so much more. $10 per bike plus an unwrapped gift. Need more info? Check out reddevilcycles.com or give Luann a call at 772-221-8616. Put a smile on a kid's face and some wind in yours.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you heard the man. Call or text 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime hotline. And again, you can call or text your questions to that number. But guys, you heard me in the opening segment of the show alluding to some of the financial news, and then I got off into the tangent about why I think real estate still makes sense, even in the face of these rising interest rates and the likelihood of a recession kind of being acknowledged by just about everybody right now, except maybe the president. But man, you gotta love his optimism. But hey, I just wanted to throw this out there. So we talked about me not having full faith and confidence that this market's going to crash anytime soon. And guys, if you want a whole litany of reasons, just check out the Facebook page. Or better yet, go to Mr. Mortgage Radio and catch some of the back episodes because we've talked about it in length, and I'm happy to do it again if you have questions around that. But there's so many reasons why right now there's just not enough housing supply coming to the market to push prices down. And I know you may be sick of hearing me say it, but the reality is supply and demand is the only thing that controls pricing. And that's where the money manager and I got wrapped around the axle together in a mastermind conversation yesterday. And I'm going to share that conversation a little later in the show because I think you'll find it interesting. And this isn't one-upping anybody. It's not me being smarter than anybody. It's just amazing at how, a slightly different lens, how you look at things can completely change your perception. And by the end of the conversation, we both agreed, which I found quite interesting. But anyway, here's what I wanted to jump in on. A lot of people are anticipating foreclosures, right? Foreclosures are going to come to the market because the economy is going to struggle. Well, here's something interesting. Bloomberg did a study, and they released in an article this week that 3.71% of all owner-occupied properties in the U.S. are not completely caught up on their mortgage. They're either making partial payments or they're not making payments. So 3.71%. Now, it goes on to say that 60.4 something. I can't even read my own handwriting today. But just over 60% are all caught up making payments on time. And all caught up is a bit deceiving because they were never behind. And then almost 35.5% of the population do not have a mortgage at all. So you add those two numbers together, and 96 and change percent of U.S. households are either on time with their mortgage or have no mortgage at all. So let's focus back on that 3.71%, because if nearly 4% of all U.S. households went into foreclosure, that might move the needle in some areas. But here's what I found truly fascinating. Of that 3.71%, roughly 20% or 1 in 5 of them, they think it's likely that they're going to lose their home to foreclosure in the next several months. Now, if you do all of the math, that 1 in 5 of 3.71% comes out to 0.74%. So less than 1% of U.S. households, owner-occupied U.S. households, are in fear of losing their property to foreclosure. So that's one more place where we're not seeing a supply side rush to the market that's going to push prices down. And we can talk about that if you like. I love talking about supply and demand. It's just a fundamental principle of all economics. It doesn't matter race, color, creed, a widget, an apple, a car, a shoe, or a house. The price is always controlled by supply and demand. And here's another example that at the moment, there's not a bunch of supply coming to the market. So let those numbers sink in for a minute. Less than 1% of U.S. households fear losing their property to foreclosure. And then a total of 3.71% of U.S. households are not completely caught up on their mortgages. So again, guys, right now, as frustrating as it is with these interest rates and these values, if you're out there trying to buy, you're begging for something to happen, right? But here's one more example why it's unlikely in the near term that we're going to see prices decline, because the only thing that's going to push prices down is more supply than demand. And right now, even at these rates, there's more demand than supply. But anyway, I love talking about that stuff. If you want me to deep dive it, you can give me a shout off the air. I'd be happy to do it, or just shoot us a question. Call Jen. She'll get you on the air. But speaking of Jen and the questions, I'm going to throw it over. Hey, Jen, do we have questions? Are you ready?
Are you ready for some questions?
Yeah, I'm ready. Are you? All right, let's go. What do we have?
Jane sent this one. Do you think Wednesday's rate hike is going to finally kill the housing market? I don't think we can stay at these prices if rates keep going up.
Well, that's a brilliant question. I know a lot of people feel the same way. Here's the thing, though, and we just talked about it. Until more people want to sell than want to buy, prices are likely to hold. Now, here's what we're seeing every day. We're seeing sellers more and more willing to accept a lower than list price for the house. But more importantly, what we're seeing is the seller's willingness to contribute to the closing costs, or more importantly, the interest rate buy down for the buyers. So if you're buying a property right now, I saw a post on Facebook this morning when I was heading over to the studio here. It said, now is the best time to buy a house in the last, I think it was 2 years. Well, I don't agree with that. I think 2 years ago would have been a far better time because you had lower interest rates and lower prices. But I think today is better than tomorrow. So I do agree with that, because even at these interest rates, with the seller's willingness to buy the rate down, first of all, you have less competition, right? It wasn't too long ago that a property being shown on Saturday was sold by Sunday night. And that was the, standard operating procedure. Enter a listing into the MLS on Thursday, do an open house on Saturday, highest and best offers due Sunday night, all offers reviewed Monday. That was kind of the listing agent strategy all through the pandemic, and it worked brilliantly. But now we're not seeing that. We're seeing people have the time to look at several houses, digest their best opportunity, and more importantly, make an offer that allows a contribution to buy the interest rate down. We're just seeing that over and over again. And right now it's working, and it's working well. So I don't think it's the best time in the last 2 or 3 years to buy a house by any means, because prices and rates are higher than they were 2 or 3 years ago. But I do think it's the best time to be able to negotiate, and that might have been the spirit of the post. So no slander intended there, but great question. I hope that helps. I just don't see rates alone pushing the market down. All it's doing is drying up demand, and right now there's still more demand than supply. And guys, we've talked about it too. I think a byproduct of the higher interest rates are less sellers. You know, if you're sitting at home with a load of equity, if you're one of that 60, what did I say it was, Jen? 61% or 60% of the U.S. population who's sitting at home with equity in their property, you're most likely sitting on a super low interest rate and you're probably unlikely to want to sell. But good question. Keep them coming. Hey, Jen, what else do we have?
Brooke sent a text. We'd like to help our daughter buy her first house. Are we able to co-sign her loan if we don't live in the house?
That was Brooke. Hey, great question. Yes, you can co-sign for your daughter. You would be classed as what's called a non-occupying co-borrower, which would allow you to co-sign essentially the mortgage. You're a co-borrower, and you don't have to take possession of the property as your primary. She can, and she can file homestead exemption on her portion of ownership. So yes, you can. There are several strategies around helping your daughter or your son or your nephew or your grandson or granddaughter buy a property. Non-occupying co-borrower is one of them. Gifting the down payment is another opportunity. You could buy it as an investment property and sell it to them with a lease option if they weren't currently mortgage ready. We employ a lot of strategies. And right now, a lot of parents have interest in helping their kids purchase properties because, listen, guys, if you're a parent of an adult child and you own your own home, you know the benefits that equity has provided you over the years. So brilliant question. Yeah, congratulations on being ready to take that step and help her get into her first place. I hope that helped you, the answer to your question. And if you need more info, just give us a call, 855-462-7292. I'll be happy to help, and we can deep dive that if you like. But guys, you hear the music, you know what that means. That's my cue. We'll be back in two. Sit tight for 2 minutes. On the other side of this break, we'll be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
We kept our business above water with credit cards during the pandemic. I'm glad we did. Business is better than ever. But I didn't want to be a slave to those credit card payments. I called Mark about the rec loan he advertises. Long story short, we did a rec refinance and paid off everything, even the car. Now we only have the mortgage payment. We're saving a bunch every month. Yes, we are happy to recommend Mark and the Mr. Mortgage team.
It's that time of year again. Time for the Red Devil Cycles Toy Run. Join us Sunday, November 20th. The ride starts at Pineapple Park in Jensen and rolls out to Timer Powers Park, Indiantown. It's going to be an awesome ride, a great day, full of food, fun, music, raffles, giveaway, and so much more. $10 per bike plus an unwrapped gift. Need more info? Check out reddevilcycles.com or give Luann a call at 772-221-8616. Put a smile on a kid's face and some wind in yours.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are tuned in to your very favorite mortgage and real estate show of the week, or at least it's my favorite mortgage and real estate show. Guys, I hope you're enjoying it, and we certainly thank you for being with us. If you have questions, give us a call or shoot us a text at 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292, and thank you for your questions. We had some good ones. in that last segment, we talked about how you can help your adult children buy their first property and a few strategies around that. So if you missed it and you want to rewind, just go to MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. After we get done with the live show each week, the recorded version is posted to cyberspace as a podcast. So that's pretty cool. We've got listeners all over the world. And last time I talked to Greg, I've got to get this stat right. I think it's 59 or 69 countries that listen to the station online via the app. So super exciting. But guys, if you have questions, 855-462-7292 is the easiest way to get them on the air, or visit mr.mortgagenevera.com. Just go up to your browser, type in Mr., hit the dot, type in mortgage, hit enter, will pop right up, and in the upper right hand corner of the page is a contact us box, and you can type your question there and Jen will get it on the air for you. And I know she's got some questions stacked up. We were just talking about that during the break, but hey, you hear us advertising. Well, let me back up first. Hey, I want to say thank you to everybody who helped us support the Molly's House benefit last month. It was a great turnout. They raised a lot of money. Mindy worked her butt off. The team at Molly's House did a great job. I got a thank you card in the mail from them, and it just reminded me. So, hey guys, thanks for that. But you hear me advertising now for the Red Devil Toy Run. It's in conjunction with the Stewart Police Department. I was talking with Lou Ann yesterday. If you don't ride a motorcycle, or you don't want to, you can drive your car through along with the bikes, I guess is what I'm getting at. If you just want to show up and support everybody and enjoy an amazing day together with some music and some hot dogs and hamburgers and cigars. And I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful day to spend with everybody. But if you don't ride a bike, you can drive your car, and they're just going to put you in the back of the, I think it's the back. Maybe you'll be in the front. I don't know. But it's a police escorted ride from Pineapple Park in Jensen all the way out to Timer Powers Park in Indiantown. And out there, if you've ever been out there, that's an amazing equestrian park right on the river there. It's beautiful, beautiful property. But anyway, that's where it's all going to end up. And there's bands and music. We're going to be out there. I'm going to bring my old car out. I know Jen's riding. Jen, are you going to ride in that?
My bike Flora and I will be riding in the Red Devil Toy Run. Hope to see you there.
All right. So, yeah, Jen's going to ride her bike. I was going to ride the bike, but a lot of people like to see the old car. So I'm going to bring the car out there, set up a tent, and just hang out with everybody. But my point in this is you can drop your toys or your donation off for the Red Devil Toy Run either at the Stewart Police Department or at Red Devil Cycles in Stewart. But if you can spend some time with us on Sunday, November 20th, we'd love you to be a part of it. Hey, who knows? One of these days, Greg might even let me remote from some of these things because we do a lot of community events. We're going to do the Port St. Lucie Police Athletic League ride also, so we'll start advertising that. But anyway, on with the show. Hey, Jen, I know you said you had some questions. What do we have?
Carmen sent this one. I hear you talking about buying down the interest rate. I like that idea. How much does it cost to buy the rate down? How far can we buy it down?
Hey, that's a great question, Carmen. So there's a huge misconception out there that paying a point, right? Almost everybody knows a point is 1% of your loan amount. So if you're borrowing $200,000, a point is $2,000. And a lot of people are under the misconception that if you pay a point, you buy the rate down a point. And I wish it was that easy. It's not. So let's say the rate of the day is 7%, right? Pick a round number, which is pretty, probably pretty indicative of today. So if you pay a point, you're not turning a 7% interest rate into a 6% interest rate. So to answer your question, depending on the lender and depending on the day, right? Because if pricing is very volatile, or if we're going up or we're trending down, all of that impacts this math. But a fairly good rule of thumb is 1% of the loan, right? That 1 point can buy the interest rate down up to 1/4 of a point. So usually it's 3 or 4 to 1. So in that $200,000 example, you could buy the interest rate down from 7 to 6 with somewhere between $6,000 or $8,000 in discount points, they're called. And that's why right now, with the sellers being willing to negotiate again, we're talking to buyers about utilizing the seller contribution to buy the rate down, because the difference in the payment on a 7% rate to a 6% rate is a huge difference compared to the difference in a 7% mortgage at $200,000 or at $190,000. There's not much movement there, but if you lower the rate, there's significant movement. So I hope that answers the question. And then the last part of it is how far you can buy it down is there's so many moving parts around that. There's an instance where you could get into what's classed as a high cost mortgage, and then it wouldn't be fundable. So they don't let you put too many fees on the front of a loan because they don't want borrowers taken advantage of with fees. So they limit what percentage of fees that you can pay. But in theory, you could buy it down more than that. It's just going to hit that high cost loan limit at some point. But it's pretty safe in most instances to be able to buy it down a full percentage point. Great question, though. We're seeing it almost every day right now, and people are winning in real estate by using seller contributions to buy the rate down. So congrats on thinking that way, and I hope that helps. Hey, Jen, what else do we have?
Becky wants to know, I just started a new job a couple of months ago. How long do I need to wait before I can apply for a mortgage?
That is a brilliant question, Becky. Now, there's a chance you might not have to wait at all. There are a lot of moving parts around this. Assuming that you stayed in the same or a very similar career field, right? The manager of Publix, and now you're the manager of Winn-Dixie or the manager of Aldi. And assuming you get paid the same way, right? You're on a salary or you're hourly, you get 40 hours, every week it's consistent, then you may not need to wait at all. If you have gone from a salaried position to straight commission or an unrelated industry, you were the manager of Publix, I think I said, and now you're selling cars at the VW dealership, that's going to be a completely different scenario because you're not established in that industry with the commission-only pay. So I would need to know a little bit more about that, but there is a chance that you may not need to wait at all, assuming that your current position with the new company is in the same or very similar field that you left, and you're getting paid the same way, and you're making at least the same amount or hopefully more in the new position. But that's a great question. So guys, there's a lot of confusion around that because everybody has heard the 2-year work history rule, right? I just air quoted it when I said it. It's so standard. But 2-year work history doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be 2 years with the same employer. It's 2 years in the same field, 2 years in the same job capacity. And then sometimes there's some opportunity to move within that. So to use that example of the Publix manager, if suddenly you were now managing Macy's, or is Macy's even open anymore? I mean, since Amazon and the pandemic, I can't remember the last time I went to the mall. Sorry guys, if you're in retail, maybe we need to do a better job of supporting you. But anyway, my point is, in that example, you may be able to move from manager of Publix to manager of Macy's because you're still managing a retail store, you're managing personnel. It's a very similar job, except you're not selling food, you're selling clothing and home goods and things of that nature. So I hope that helped. You may not have to wait at all, but if you want to dive deep on that and you need some more specific information, I'd love to have a conversation. I would need to know a little bit more from you before I could give you a great answer. But hey, thanks for that. I hope that helped. All right, you hear the music, you know what that means. That's my cue. We're going to be back in 2. We're going to jump into another short break. On the other side of this break, Jen is going to keep your questions rolling. You can get your questions on the air by calling 855-462-7292. Hang in there for 2 minutes. On the other side of this break, there'll be more of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
As a realtor, I have a bunch of mortgage brokers to choose from, but I prefer to work with Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team. In this crazy market, there is no room for error, especially on the mortgage side. Mark's team moves fast, keeps everybody in the loop, and makes things happen. They always give my clients a great deal and take the time to walk them through every step of the process. When you're considering a lender, I encourage you to talk to Mark Eitel and the Mr. Mortgage team.
It's that time of year again. Time for the Red Devil Cycles Toy Run. Join us Sunday, November 20th. The ride starts at Pineapple Park in Jensen and rolls out to Timer Powers Park, Indiantown. It's going to be an awesome ride, a great day, full of food, fun, music, raffles, giveaway, and so much more. $10 per bike plus an unwrapped gift. Need more info? Check out reddevilcycles.com or give Luann a call at 772-221-8616. Put a smile on a kid's face and some wind in yours.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are tuned in to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Jen and I do this each week right here. Same bat time, same bat channel. Super excited to have you with us. We are going to do a rapid round of questions. Your questions are always my favorite part of the show. So if you have questions or comments, if you just want to tell me how wonderful I am or tell me that you think I'm a jackass, either way, call or text your questions or comments to 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. You can call or text the Anytime hotline or check us out online at mr.mortgagenever.com. Just type in Mr., hit the little dot, type in mortgage, hit enter. The page will pop up. In the upper right-hand corner is the contact us box, and you can submit your questions there. Jen will read it on the air for you. But hey, speaking of thinking I'm a jackass, I told you I was in that mastermind group. We talked about it in the opening segment, and I had a very interesting conversation that turned into a bit of a debate with a gentleman who manages a private fund, and they go out all around the country and they buy properties for investment, primarily rentals, some fix and flips. And he was telling me that he thought 1/3 of the U.S. population, household-wise, was at risk for foreclosure if we get into a deep recession. Now, the big wild card in that was deep recession, right? But I just shared with him in my conversation the same data I shared with you, that less than 0.75%, 0.74 point, right? 0.74%, less than 0.75% of the U.S. population fear that they're in line for a foreclosure, and that nearly 97% of the U.S. population, owner-occupied household-wise, either has all their mortgage payments made on time and they're comfortable, maybe not comfortable, but they're making their payments, and another 35% don't have mortgages at all. So faced with that data, it's hard to see where 1/3 of the U.S. population is suddenly going to be into foreclosure and drive all the prices down. So that I saw a comment pop up that don't forget to tell that story. So that's what happened yesterday. Now, it was over a 1 hour period of time where we participate in this panel together. So there was a lot more to the conversation than that, but it started off with a disagreement about what percentage of the population is currently at risk, and then ended with kind of agreeing to disagree, but you can't disagree with that data. And his point is he thinks that there's some deep economic downturn coming in the next several months. And guys, if that happens, that may change everything. But I just work with the data that we have available to us, and I don't put a spin on it, good or bad. I take the emotion out of it and I just look at the numbers. That's just my thing. That's what I've always done. And you've heard me say it before, that logic and passion can't rule the same brain at the same time. And that's why I prefer logic. I prefer data. And if you don't think that emotion can move money. You should have seen the stock market yesterday because it was up and then it was down in anticipation of the Federal Reserve's interest rate move, and then the press conference afterwards. Then it raced up because everybody thought the Fed is done. This is a good sign, and then the bottom fell out of it again. So that's all emotion. None of that's data. So anyway, I just find all of that interesting. But hey, I'm going to toss it over to Jen so we can keep your questions coming. Hey, Jen, what do we have?
Todd sent a text. We were talking about a rate buy down. Can we do that with the rec refinance you advertise?
Hey, that's a brilliant question. I appreciate that. So to answer your question, absolutely. You can use the interest rate buy down. You don't have to use the seller's money for it. And if you're doing a refinance, you can roll the cost of the buy down right into the loan. So fantastic question. I hope that helps. But as always, if you need more info, don't hesitate to reach out. Appreciate that question. Hey, Jen, what else do we have?
Here's an email from Renee. I've been seeing some ads for what seems to be a low interest rate for newly built homes. Is this a scam, or do new homes get a better interest rate?
Hey, that is a brilliant question and a wonderful observation. So thanks for that, Renee. But here's the answer. No, newly built homes don't get a better interest rate. All that's happening, you're seeing a final interest rate being advertised. Well, the builders are buying the rate down because, guys, they just built out this big, gigantic neighborhood and they sold all of these homes at $500,000. Well, in order to sell the rest of the homes, they're having to buy the rate down to make it attractive, and they don't want to lower the price. They don't want to suddenly sell the rest of the neighborhood at $450,000 because all they did was devalue the whole neighborhood. As soon as 3 or 4 of those brand new homes sell at a discount, guess what, guys? Everybody who paid $500,000 for their property last year, suddenly they're upside down. So no, they're taking some of that profit that they have built into that sales price and using it to buy the interest rate down. Exactly the strategy that we advocate for, using the seller's contribution to buy the rate down. They're doing the same thing. The builder is the seller and they've got loads of profit into that deal. So they're taking some of that profit, buying the rate down so that they can keep the prices up at $500,000 instead of it recording at a discount. To use that example at $450,000. Now, I'm not suggesting they're going to give you $50,000 in contributions and buy downs, but that's what you're seeing happen. And I'll share a story with you. I met a guy many years ago, early in my career, who was a builder in California in the early 80s when rates were high double digits. And I'll never forget this. And I might have the exact years that he was a builder in California wrong, because this is going back, 20 some odd years of memory here. But he shared with me that he was a builder during those times. And I thought, my God, it must have been a bloodbath. It must have been brutal. He said, Mark, I've never been busier. During that time, I had never been busier in my career. And I said, how'd you do it? You got to tell me what your magic is. And he told me they took a sheet of plywood and painted it white and put new homes 12% interest. And they put that out at the front of the project, and cars were lining up to get in there because they were using the same strategy to buy the rate down. So it worked back then. It's going to work now. It's going to continue to work in the future. And that's all the builders are doing, is they're employing that same strategy. They're just not advertising it as such, because the rate is what's hooking you in that ad. So great question, Renee. Well spotted. And if you need more information about that, just give us a shout. Hey, Jen, do we have any other questions? Okay.
Brad is asking, is a 3-2-1 buy down the same as an adjustable rate mortgage? If not, what's the difference? Great show, by the way.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Brad. Appreciate it. Anybody who wants to comment, great show, feel free to call. Step right up to the microphone. But yeah, that's an easy one to answer. So no, it's not. What a 3-2-1 buy down is, or you're seeing a lot of people advertise a 2-1 buy down. You're taking that money, typically the seller contribution, and the rate is being bought down 3 full percentage points for the first year, 2 percentage points for the second year, 1% for the third year, and then it goes to the fully indexed rate, right? So if it was 7, it would start at 4, then 5, then 6, and then in year 4 go to 7 and stay at 7. An adjustable rate mortgage will stay at the lower rate for a fixed period, typically 3, 5, 7, or 10 years. And then it adjusts either every 6 months or every year for the rest of the loan, right? So you could get a lower interest rate for the first 3 years, and then it's going to adjust either every 6 months or every year for the remainder of that term, which is typically a 30-year mortgage. So a 3-1 ARM is how you'll hear it advertised, is fixed for the first 3 years, then it adjusts every year thereafter, and it can continue to adjust up or down, or sometimes up and sometimes down for the life of the loan, where the 3-2-1 buy down, once it gets back to that 7% rate, stays there for the remainder of the loan. What I like about that is there's far more movement in the first 3 years than a typical ARM is priced. However, you're going to go back to that, that normal interest rate at the beginning of year 4. I'm a big fan of buying it down once for the life of the loan, but that's just me. I happen to be conservative. So brilliant question. I appreciate it. I hope that explains the difference. An ARM, a 3-1 ARM would stay fixed for the 3, or a 5-1, 10-1, that first number is the fixed period, and then it adjusts in increments of every year or every 6 months thereafter, depending on the loan product, where the buy down, as I mentioned, once it adjusts back, it stays there for the remainder of the term. It never adjusts again. So, guys, you hear the music. You know what that means? It's break time. We'll be right back. Sit tight for 2 minutes. On the other side of this break, we'll be back with more of the Mr. Mortgage Show. Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
My wife and I own a small business. And the way our accountant file our taxes, we don't show much income on tax returns. Because of this, it looks as if we don't make the money. This was a problem for our bank when we applied for a mortgage. But not for Mark. He verifies our income by using our monthly bank statements. Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team made a big difference for me. Yes, I am happy to recommend Mr. Mortgage Mark.
It's that time of year again. Time for the Red Devil Cycles Toy Run. Join us Sunday, November 20th. The ride starts at Pineapple Park in Jensen and rolls out to Timer Powers Park, Indiantown. It's going to be an awesome ride, a great day, full of food, fun, music, raffles, giveaway, and so much more. $10 per bike plus an unwrapped gift. Need more info? Check out reddevilcycles.com or give Luann a call at 772-221-8616. Put a smile on a kid's face and some wind in yours.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are tuned in to the very, very famous or infamous, I guess, Mortgage and Real Estate Show. We do this each week right here, same time, same station, and we certainly appreciate you spending some of your day with us. Guys, we've had a great show so far. You are bringing some wonderful questions to the table. We've talked about 3-2-1 buy downs versus ARMs. We talked about how to help your child buy a property. We talked about using the interest rate buy down strategy when refinancing, which is something a lot of people don't even think about. So that was a brilliant question. If you missed any of it or you want to hear some of that again, just go to MrMortgageRadio.com. MrMortgageRadio.com. Once we're off the air, Jen posts the recorded version of the show up to the to the MrMortgageRadio.com as a podcast, so you can catch all the back episodes. I know there's over 80 shows on there now, so super excited about that to keep building that library. But hey, I'm going to throw it over to Jen and see if we can't get a couple more questions in. Hey, Jen, what do we have?
Chad left a message. My mom is going to leave me her house when she dies. I help her with monthly bills and think she can benefit from a reverse mortgage. It will help me too, since I won't have to help with her bills. Can she still leave me the house? I'm not sure how all this works. Thanks. Great show.
Hey, that's another great show. Jen, are you just squeezing those in there, or are they part of the question? Hey, I appreciate that, Chad. That's a wonderful question. Yes. So there are a lot of misconceptions around a reverse mortgage. My answer was yes. She can still leave you the property. Big misconception number one, we do a reverse mortgage and we've got to sign the house over to the bank. Untrue. You do a reverse mortgage, the bank puts a lien on your property, no different than a normal mortgage, right? Chad, exactly to your question, another big fear is we do a reverse mortgage. Now we can't leave the property to the kids. Nope, same thing, misconception. Your mom can leave you the property. There's now going to be a lien on the property that has to be satisfied. With the reverse mortgage, typically you'll get a 12-month window to settle the estate. So you'll just pay the mortgage off. You can refinance the house into your name, or you can sell it and the proceeds go to you. And then one more misconception I want to cover while we're on this topic is what happens if you owe more money than the house is worth? And we saw this after the Great Recession when housing prices went down in the early 2000s. A reverse mortgage could accrue more interest and that balance could grow, and now you owe more than the property's worth. Really cool thing. It's a non-recourse loan. You can slide the keys back to the bank and there's no recourse on a negative equity position. Even if there's a ton of other assets in the estate, you don't have to settle any negative equity. It's fully non-recourse. It's insured against loss to the lender. It's an FHA loan product, so the bank doesn't lose and you don't lose. It's a brilliant loan product, and I appreciate the question, and I would love to talk with you more about it because there are a lot of moving parts. And guys, this is a perfect example. He's taking care of his mom. He's writing her a check. Most of the time we see children are writing the check every month to help the parents stay above water. Well, here's the thing. That equity in the property can do the same thing. And our folks are often proud. They don't want to do that. They want to leave that big nest egg to the kids. But here's the thing. If Chad's writing that check each month anyway, leaving that nest egg it's going to reimburse him his expenses along the way. A lot of children want to see their parents have that freedom and that dignity and just, the equity's yours, Mom. Live happily ever after on the equity. So Chad, wonderful question. And I'm sure it's going to help her. It's going to help you. And I would be happy to answer any more questions that you have about it. But great question. Thank you for that. Hey, and we had a lot of really good questions this week. But I'm going to ask a favor. Guys, if you enjoy the show, if you found any of this useful or helpful, or you think someone else could benefit from some of this knowledge, share the show. Would you please help me Pied Piper the show? You'll see me out there on Saturdays walking up and down any number of streets in PSL with green tights on and a little hat, Pied Pipering with my flute, going up and down the street, Pied Pipering the show. I'm hoping I can count on you to help me spread the word. If you know somebody who's got questions about refinancing or buying or selling real estate, is it a good time? Is it a bad time? Should I just wait? Where are rates going to go? How much difference does buying the rate down really make in a monthly payment? If you know somebody who has questions, please tell them to give me a shout. 855-462-7292. We are always happy to help. So great show this week, guys. You did not disappoint. As always, Jen, thank you so much for your help. Say goodbye.
Goodbye, Jen. Have a great week.
Bye, Jen. I love that. Guys, you hear the music? You know what that means? We've wrapped up another week. My God, where does the time go? We have so much fun with you here. If you need us during the week, just give us a call, 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. 7292, or check out MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. Have a great week. We'll see you right back here next week. Same time, same station.
That's a wrap. Join Mark Eitel next week for more thrilling, edge-of-your-seat discussions about real estate and mortgages right here on The Mr. Mortgage Show.